Let's begin with conversations with Lao. It was a Cambodian school. We asked him, Lao, how did you fall in love with God? How did you fall in love with God so much that you and so many disciples of yours attained mergence with the Creator? He answered, I don't know. Even when I was a child, he was always near me. I knew that his fathomless eyes were always looking at me and giving me love. And I dissolved in this love. When I listened to rustling of leaves, or to whispering of rain, to murmur of brook, or to singing of birds, I always heard his voice. In the quietness of evening and in the clearness of morning, he was near me. He told me about love. He smiled with the corolla of every flower, caressed me with sunlight, stroked me with the wind touching my face. When I walked the earth, I felt his hands, which supported and guided me. When does a baby begin to love its mother? When it grows in her flesh, or when it drinks her warm milk for the first time, or when it sees her first smile? The baby doesn't know it. The baby just grows in this love. I don't know how I fell in love with God. I was born in His love, breathed in it, I grew in it, and my love for Him grew together with me. Then I understood that people don't know this love, and I began to seek how to help them. Thus I found my lake, and on its bank an ashram was built. There God began to teach me how to help people. He taught me love, care, and patience of a mother who supports her children with her palms. My children were flowers, birds, trees, grass, people, my people who learned to love. It is in this place that I became that Lao whom you know now, and my heart became a lake of the divine love, a small drop of the great ocean. Everyone coming to me submerged into its waters and took with themselves as much love as they could contain. Those who stayed with me in the ashram grew in my heart, which never separated itself from the ocean of the Creator anymore. Also, I would like to tell you the following. On the spiritual path, the spiritual warrior is never left alone. God always takes part in the warrior's advancement. In other words, the spiritual advancement is not a result of the efforts of the warrior alone, but a result of the common work of the warrior and God. It is God who creates for the spiritual warrior conditions for further advancement. By doing this, God gives the warrior a chance to become that what the warrior chooses to be. God gives the warrior opportunities for self-development by involving his power in this process. The more fully and self-sacrificially the spiritual warrior is devoted to the work of self-development and helping others in their development, the more marvelous possibilities and prospects God provides to such a warrior. I want everyone walking the path of good to remember always about the constant presence of God in their lives and to never doubt His power. He who goes through life together with God, feeling always His presence, can never become dejected. After all, dejection is a denial of the presence of the infinite divine power in one's life, a separation of oneself from God, a refusal to accept His help. With subtle morning mist, I cover green sprouts, which have just appeared from the ground. They are very fragile and tender. They are my children. I support them with my hands, warm them with gentle sunlight. They grow under the rays of my love. I lavish my care and tenderness upon them. I help them to become stronger, to grow up and to bloom. And then subtle aroma fills the entire universe. Be gardeners in my garden and help me to grow my flowers. The heart that has contained the infinity of the Creator's love becomes a temple of God. Then it can create centers of spirituality in any place of the earth. If one became a temple of God and represents now the abode of the Creator, then through such a person a divine stream begins to flow, a source of the water of life, a source of the true life. Everyone drinking from such a source receives a chance to begin their own ascent. My dream and the dream of every one of us is to turn the earth into a blooming ashram. Though we understand how much evil there is on the earth now, we ask Lao, Lao, what can one do to prevent situations when children who received our knowledge fall back in the opposite direction? He answers, first you have to develop love in children. Then such falls will be impossible. A soul which has grown as love cannot degrade. Second, you have to strive to create groups of children, or children and adults, similar to forest ashrams, with pure and harmonious environment for living and growing. It is in such environment that one can form in souls strong positive principles of life and morals, principles of interaction with the world of living nature. Forest schools are a possibility to help these sprouts of good, which need to be cared for constantly in the beginning. To be different from others normally is not possible for a soul in a child's body. To oppose alone the aggressive primitivism is possible only for an adult and strong person. Also, not all children can withstand by themselves the temptations of the dull contentment of the tamas guna. But if there are companions on the path, then the child, even if he or she was an outcast, accepts a new positive role and becomes one of the hero's pioneers, defenders of the good. To a child, it's very important to have like-minded companions, both among adults and among children. One has to lay in children the foundation of development in the form of growth of love. Then future difficulties, including the temptations of the egoistic attitude toward the world, become less dangerous. It is love that has to be the foundation of education of souls of any age. This makes their degradation impossible. If the hands of the spiritual heart, the hands which give, create, love, became the basis of soul's life, then such a soul cannot fall. And against such a background, the intellect has to be developed. A healthy and joyful way of life, in harmony with nature, giving love to others. This is how souls have to be educated. The development of cordial love toward every God's creation can help children on the spiritual path. Forest schools make possible creating spiritual environment for children's growth. Around you there must be a garden of young, pure souls. You have to create such gardens throughout all the earth. We asked, how can one help those who turn away from love? Lao answered, they have many lives ahead. God's help comes to those who seek how to help others. Then, from conversations with Maida, she began to speak. I invite you to the inner abode of the Spirit. It is there that the flowers of the divine love bloom. My divine teacher Lao taught love through working with anahata and growth of the spiritual heart. Not just meditations, but his entire life and the lives of every one of us were aimed at growth of love. The hands of the spiritual heart, which give light, care, caress. We worked with them all the time, when meditating or planting flowers in the ashram, when healing, dancing, creating harmony in our houses and gardens. This is how love grew in us, so that we may take on our palms all evolving souls of the earth. This is how Lao opened the inner temple for every soul ready for it. The temple where abides the primordial essence of everything. From conversations with Tiao Li. She came to us when we were having a rest near a fire after intensive meditative work, consisting of light tenderness, in traditional Korean dresses, with a tender smile. She bathed us in her soft, dissolving love. We asked, what is your name? Tiao Li. Could you tell about yourself, please? We see that you attained divinity. Well, I came to my last incarnation in Korea as a mature soul with rich experience of subtle states of the consciousness from the past lives. I could stay in soft calm, was capable of thinking creatively, learned to live for others and sacrifice myself for others' sake. I could see and appreciate the beauty, could merge with the harmony of nature and dissolve with the consciousness in its purity. I missed only the knowledge about God, about His beingness. I missed also the methods of development of oneself as a consciousness, which allow one to achieve the complete self-realization and then to help other people more efficiently. And God took care about me. I met my future husband and spiritual instructor, Kim. This meeting happened later in my life, while in the beginning I began to dance since early childhood, after I had barely learned to walk. Our family had a small garden. Quietness and communion with birds, flowers and trees attracted me much more than contacts with other children. For hours I could look and listen to what flowers or birds say, watch fishes swimming in the transparent water of our small pond. I understood and loved them, and tried to talk to them without words, expressing my love for them with the help of gestures and other movements. And every time a new dance was born. For example, I felt myself a flower. My trunk was a stem, my arms were leaves, and the corolla of the flower was always inside my chest. I began to move the trunk stem, to caress with arms leaves, the sun, the sky, the space around me. Bliss of this dance flowed through my body. I forgot about everything and danced, radiating love to all my friends. When I grew a little older, my parents sent me to a school in a Buddhist monastery where I learned the art of dance. Studying was easy and joyful for me. Dance had become my life already. I just polished my skills, bringing every new movement, every gesture to perfection. We were taught that the most important thing is to convey the emotional state. This constitutes the essence of dance. My improvisation from childhood were very useful for this purpose. The dance of oriole, the dance of crane, the dance of nightingale singing in spring. I danced and forgot about all the rest. There were only the oriole, only the crane, only the nightingale, and there was my love, which I gave through the dance. When dancing, I as if sang soundlessly with the soul. My heart sounded with different shades of love. From outside it looked very nice. People enjoyed and admired me dancing. Yet I had a strange feeling of inner dissatisfaction. Later I understood that in this age I could not convey to the spectators the entirety of love. I missed the shades of that tenderness, which is known only to people who are in love with each other. My love was not mature. In that school we received an all-round education. We studied philosophy, religion, history, and other subjects. Let me stress that this is extremely important. But the main thing to me was an acquaintance with the teachings of Buddha. Consciously I discovered for myself a new divine world. It was the world of light and love. I learned the laws that Buddha followed in his life and commanded us to follow. The laws of purity of life. Compassion, benevolence, truthfulness, kindness, love. I followed these laws in everything I did. Then I came to know the love of man, with him who too could give himself. Kim became my husband and my spiritual guide into the abode of the Primordial Consciousness. He helped me to master meditative methods, gave me his power and love, and I gave him tenderness, gave my calm and caress. The harmony of our relationships helped us both in advancement on the spiritual path. The ecstasy of mergence of souls, the bliss of giving tenderness to each other, the joy of giving oneself. Without such valuable experience, love cannot gain all its power and fullness. And my dance became now a means of expressing my love for the Primordial One. Now from conversations with Kim. A broad smile, strong, gentle arms of the consciousness embracing us. It is our friend, Kim. We asked him to tell about himself. He willingly agreed. He said, "May I tell you my story?" Yes, Kim, of course. And he began to show. Korea, a Buddhist monastery in mountains. Neatly paved trails, planted trees, bushes. A mountain brook flows through the monastery territory and beautifies its every corner. It fills lakes, rolls over stone steps, and make small bubbling waterfalls. Transparent waters run over stones. A high and pure sound of bells floats around, the wind touches them gently, and their clear sound fills the transparent ear. Kim continues. Buddhism, in its original purity, is first and foremost morality. It also implies perceiving the world in harmony. It is also calm. Have you ever thought about the meaning of the word bodhisattva? Bodhi or buddhi means developed individual consciousness. Sattva means harmony, purity. Everyone has to strive for achieving the state of bodhisattva in order to dedicate the life to saving all souls from the abyss of suffering. And everyone can eventually become a Buddha, a completely liberated one. The main principle of Buddhism, ahimsa, implies non-causing harm as possible to other creatures. It is the foundation of love-compassion. Everyone who observes this rule in their life is on the path to light. Even when I was a small boy, I liked to be a defender. I liked to protect the lives of bugs, birds, plants. My grandfather explained to me why man cannot use bodies of animals for food, why we have to strive to avoid causing pain to other living beings. I gladly considered myself a defender and a saver of bugs and rabbits, butterflies and baby birds, of all creatures. I was only 5 years old when I took on myself the mission of defending all the living. But one day, my brothers and I played with a nestling which fell out of its nest. Accidentally, I broke its leg. I almost wept. My grandfather looked at me with contempt. He told to other children how to treat the nestling. Then he told me that my amusement turned out a pain for a small bird. Since that moment I understood fully the holy principle of not causing evil, not causing pain, not doing violence to living creatures. Since that moment I have never violated it. When I grew up, I fell in love with a beautiful girl. She became my wife and the mother of our sons. Once an awful epidemic happened and took away many lives. My wife and children died too. I could not protect from the disease and death those whom I loved. Then I took the decision to become he who possesses the higher knowledge about how to save and protect. Monasteries in Korea at that time were centers where people studied reading and writing, medicine and cognition of the primordial consciousness. Normally, only children from noble families were sent to monasteries for receiving education. And I was almost 40 years old. I walked from one monastery to another, but no one agreed to accept me as a student. They offered me shelter and simple work, but when I asked for more, they only laughed at me. Once, when I received next refusal from a haughty monk, I went toward the gate. Suddenly I saw a great sage walking slowly out of the temple. Our eyes met. He made a slightest gesture with his hand, and that monk, prostrating himself before the sage, jumped and rushed to call me back. Since that moment I was as if in a dream, though I remember all slightest details. He was a great teacher. Love and wisdom shone from his eyes. He beckoned me to come close. I went to him as if through a volume of water, forgetting about everything around. I forgot even to kneel before him. He smiled and touched my head with his hand. Only then I recollected myself and prostrated at his feet. He said quietly, "I will teach you." These words touched me very deeply. The sleep of the soul ended. Its awakening began. He commanded that I was given a possibility to wash myself, to be fed, and given a cell in the monastery. He told also that he would wait for me tomorrow before the dawn. Next morning I was brought to him. He made a gesture with his hand, and the monks left us alone. "What do you want?" he asked. I began telling my story. He interrupted me in the middle. "I know everything about you that I need to know. Tell me another thing. Are you ready to serve the great cause from now on up to the moment when all souls on the earth receive liberation?" "Yes," I whispered. "Then you have to make up for the 40 years of your life. Are you ready to work so that every day brings fruits of 40 days? You have to make up for lost time and be never satisfied with the achieved results. I will help you, but in the beginning other monks will teach you. I will call you later. And now follow me." We walked to a terrace of the temple. The sun was rising over the mountains. The blue haze of mist over a dale turned into a sea of living, shining light. In silence, in quietness of the great mystery of light and life, the sun was rising over the horizon. We stood together, a great teacher and a 40-year-old man who just began cognition of the soul's path toward the light, so that later to guide other people on it. One day in the evening, after hard work, I began to meditate in my cell. Suddenly the teacher appeared before me. I prostrated myself before him and wanted to touch his feet, but my hands moved through his legs. He came to me in a non-material body. He laughed with his shining body of the consciousness, while I, astonished, sat on the floor. He said without moving the lips, "Well done. You see me and understand me well. Now go to bed. You need to have a good rest. Since that moment, I myself will teach you. Every morning you have to enter meditation and wait for me. I will come as I did today." Thus the stage of my initiation into Buddhi Yoga began. Only occasionally my teacher called me to himself to give additional explanations through his material body. I learned to feel his presence not only during morning meditations. Now, in every difficult situation, I could ask him and receive his answer in words or as an understanding. When I relied too much on his support, he didn't answer. He came, but I felt only his disapproving silence. In such cases, I understood that I have to seek the solution myself. Once he came and told me that he was abandoning the earthly body. The Great One left. The monastery was in mourning. I was overwhelmed with grief. Next morning it took me much effort to enter meditation. I ascended to a platform where one could watch the sunrise. I tried to expand with the consciousness over the expanse, but tears streamed from my eyes. Someone touched my shoulder. I raised my eyes and saw the teacher. He said, "I told you so many times that there is no death." I prostrated myself before him and, to my astonishment, touched his feet. His body was real, material. I could touch him. He said, "Some time ago you promised not to miss a single day in your work and to dedicate your entire life to cognition of the path and helping others in their search for the light. Do you remember? Next time I will come in a body to congratulate you when you receive supervision over the monastery. And now you don't need my body for learning further from me. I will continue teaching you without it." The teacher kept his promise. Yet this happened in my next incarnation. That time I had the name Kim. In meditations I constantly saw him, my teacher. My path to mergence with the primordial consciousness was easy and straight. I cognized nirvana in mergence with him and then accepted supervision of the monastery. This day the predicted miracle happened. My divine teacher came in a materialized body and blessed a new stage of my path, the stage of great service. We asked, Kim, could you tell us in more detail what methods were used in that monastery for achievement of nirvana? He answered, the methods of Buddhi yoga are almost the same everywhere. Only nuances are different. All of you studied them in your school and have good understanding of this. Now I want to put the emphasis on the following. For achievement of success, it's very important, otherwise it's simply impossible, to stay always in a calm and joyful positive emotional state. One must not live without positive emotions, without enjoying and dissolving oneself in the enjoyment. An example familiar to you is dissolution in the sattva of your beloved nature, which is very dear to every one of us too. Nirvana can be easily achieved after mastering deep sattva. The state of joyful calm, blissful inner quietness. To achieve this purpose, one needs satisfaction. Dissatisfaction with something which becomes dominant represents a significant obstacle on the path. There must be only one dissatisfaction. Dissatisfaction with one's own spiritual advancement because of unachieved yet full cognition of the primordial consciousness and mergence with the higher self. This dissatisfaction has to remain and impel one forward. All other needs of the sattvic soul have to be satisfied. The food has to be sattvic and tasty, yet one must not eat too much. The body has to be washed daily, so that the body and the soul do not suffer from dirt. One has to be able to commune with living nature and enjoy this. One has to have meetings with beloved people. Satsanga is a society, a community of spiritual friends who love each other, who travel in one boat from the bank of samsara to the place where there is only nirvana. Also, it is very important that the sexuality peculiar to all young and healthy individuals be given an opportunity to manifest itself and to contribute to the spiritual development of the partners. Monasteries are places where spiritual warriors who aspire to cognition of the primordial consciousness come together and work hard. Monasteries are not for those who torture themselves, wait for death, and are afraid of speaking about sexuality. It is tamas. Healthy sattvic sexuality allows one to learn taking care about others, It fills one with tenderness, refines one's emotions. It removes the unwanted sexual dominant, which hinders one's searching for the Creator. Of course, the ethical component in sexual relationships has to be observed always. If everything is done correctly as it has to be, then the purity and freshness of the emotions of the erotic field, tenderness, caress, admiring the beauty, overfill one and give superficial, subtle energy, which is needed for proper growth of the consciousness. God always blesses such sexuality. He doesn't bless only the sexuality of the tamas guna. Let me stress also the importance of inner quietness. It can be achieved only if, among other things, there is a harmonious satisfaction of one's sexuality, or when one's sexuality is left in the past, but soul's tenderness remained. Kim, what was the name of your teacher? Lin. And now from our conversations with Lin. We ask, Lin, tell us please about yourself. How did you attain divinity? Lin begins telling his story. My first teacher was love. I was born in the north of Korea. I was the only son of wealthy and noble parents. My mother lived in the state of tender love. She always radiated soft love and tenderness toward everyone. I grew in this field of hers. She died when I was only 7 years old. To comfort me, the father told that every soul is immortal, and that without a body, the soul feels itself even better. I understood this as a possibility to make the mother come back. I began to seek her, tried to see her as a soul, to embrace her, to feel her love, and I succeeded. She embraced me gently and said, "If you feel sad and lonely, if you miss love, remember how much I love you and try to give your love to other people as I give love to you. Then love always will be with you, and you will never be alone. If you weep and ask for love, you can never be satisfied. All the love which you receive from others can end. But love which lives in you never ends." I remembered these words all my life, and I tried to live as she taught. I lived radiating the light of love. People felt this light and wanted to be with me. And I, thanks to radiating love to all creatures, learned to see beauty and harmony. My second teacher was beauty. Even in the childhood, the state of attunement with sattva was natural for me. The attunement with morning tenderness, with subtle light of the rising sun, with clear purity of morning freshness, with fragrance of flowers that fills the ear, with singing of birds, praising every new day. For me, it was the first step toward God in that incarnation, because it allowed me to know subtle, tender states which cannot be found among the everyday concerns of people. Then, in mergence with beauty, I began to enter a special state of the soul, when my personal I disappeared and I became beauty. I sought beauty and found it everywhere, in the sunset over the expanse of the sea, when the evening fills everything with its warm calm, in the best works of art, in the patterns of natural landscapes. With time I developed a desire not just to merge with beauty, but to be in the state of constant mergence with it. And I wanted to find a teacher, a master of beauty, who could reveal to me its laws. Soon the father sent me to a Buddhist monastery for receiving education. There, quietness became my third teacher. In that monastery, an old Chinese Taoist lived. I liked to converse with him. He told me about other lands. My world expanded beyond the monastery's walls. Sometimes we sat together and he suggested listening to how in his far native land water murmurs in a river. I didn't hear how water murmurs, but I heard the quietness which was below the ground. The quietness was vast, transparent. It reached the place where the old Chinese lived years ago. Then the quietness appeared everywhere, inside and outside me. Often we sat so, immersed into the inner quietness and calm. The entire vanity of the world remained outside. It could not penetrate into the quietness. It had no right to cross the border of the quietness of the heart, filled with calm and love. I liked to study, especially to study the scriptures kept in the monastery. They were priceless. I thirsted for knowledge and could absorb it as a sponge absorbs water. Then knowledge became my fourth teacher. I got acquainted with a group of Buddhist monks who told me much new. They were not spiritual masters, but they told me about their views and about some truth, about the principle of non-harming, serving others, etc. The acquaintance with them became for me an impulse for further development. It awakened my interest to searching for spiritual self-realization. I sincerely wanted to find in life something higher, something that could give a higher meaning to life. I felt a need to seek a higher meaning of life and to realize it, to tell others about it. I went to China and began to study art in a Buddhist monastery. Thanks to this, I met several monks who were not just followers of the religious tradition, but spiritual seekers. Communication with them opened new horizons to me. They had contacts with a spiritual center in China, which possessed serious spiritual knowledge and methods. Only few people were admitted to studying in this center. Those capable of comprehending the higher knowledge and using it properly. When I learned about the existence of this center, I wanted very much to come to it. Only after being admitted to that center, I entered on the real path of developing myself as a consciousness with the help of practical techniques. I mastered the initial stage of work, which included studying the principles of sattvic nutrition, cleansing the energy systems of the body, exercises for the body and for developing the ability of moving the concentration of the consciousness to various parts of the body. On the next stage, my instructor taught me to flow out from the chest as love and to embrace the expanse around. The forest, the mountains. I embraced with myself heart the nature and for a long time stayed in this state. In this way I cognized calm much more fully. I grew as a consciousness in these states of calm among the quietness of mountains. But one day a new head was assigned to the monastery. The new order established by him was harsh. I was frightened by the thought that I had to spend in this abode all my life. I left and went traveling. Thus, life became my fifth teacher. I learned a lot then. I visited different Taoist and Buddhist monasteries. I looked at the life of people who lived there, at their joys and sorrows. I could easily make a living thanks to the knowledge gained in the process of studying. I could write a petition or suggest medicinal plants for curing different diseases, or perform any other work. I saw a lot of different people. I also cognized the love which can unite two souls, a man and a woman. I acquired invaluable experience of life, which allowed me later to understand many things. One day I heard in the quietness a voice suggesting that I go home because my father was going to die soon. I came back but could not heal him. After his death I inherited great wealth. I decided to build my own monastery, where I could unite all the best, that I saw in my travels. I chose a place of amazing beauty and hired builders. Soon other people inspired with my plans joined me. My friends and teachers also came to me. I was burning with the idea of creating the most remarkable monastery. The work went on. I was proud of my creation. Then humiliation became my sixth teacher. A traveler came to the monastery. All who came to me liked everything in the monastery. Proudly I showed them what had been done and told about my plans. But this guest looked around and only shrugged his shoulders. At the end he told, "The main thing is missed here. Here there is no God." God talked to me through this man. The traveler went away, and I remained in the ruins of my pride. Since that moment I never allowed self-conceit to delude me. I had wanted to create a beautiful abode, an abode of love. But this could be done only with God, only for Him. And for whom I had been doing it. Moreover, I forgot about meditations which I considered unnecessary for the head of the monastery. And meditation became my seventh teacher. I set my goal to cognize the Primordial One, and I began seeking him fervently. I forgot about the rest. Now I walked only to him. Meditation became the means of overcoming the distance between me and him. And then he, primordial, omnipresent, allowed me to feel him. I was astonished. I merged with him. I cognized the Primordial One. I submerged into him again and again. I spent days and nights in the meditations of mergence. I was amazed by his greatness and love. I wanted only one thing, to stay in him forever. I strove to achieve that fullness of the state of nirvana, which would never end. Then, one day, when I was walking through the monastery, he began to show me the desolation which came over the monastery since the time when I dedicated myself only to meditation. He showed me my people. They spent their free time in all kinds of ways. Lacking my attention, the monastery became similar to a withering young tree. And the Primordial One reproached me. Let your love for me sprout with love and care about every being. Only then will you become a great teacher. And now, be ashamed that you deprived my children of your love and care. Thus, care became my eighth teacher. Since then, I had students, and they were numerous. My further path was simple. Under the weight of all those whom I supported with my palms, I submerged deeper and deeper into the abode of the Primordial One, the main teacher for me and for all people. And he told me, "You have to go always only to me, and I, in you, will go to other children of mine, to those whom I entrusted to your care." We asked, "Tell us, how did you teach them?" He answered, "Love develops in souls through their help to other beings in everything good, in great and in small. Meditation techniques allow knowing something new. Yet this new transforms into one's beingness only through love giving, love service." So God taught me. It is through care about my children that I learn to feel and to see people as He does. I learn to look with His eyes and to see a step which a concrete person can take right now. I never told, "Come here, do so." I gave tasks which made the students take certain steps on transforming themselves. The students took decisions themselves. They made efforts themselves and achieved new stages in their development. The students were led only by their love for the Primordial One and by their love for all beings. I helped everyone who asked for my help and accepted my guidance. Some of my students paved with stones a trail to a pond, so that everyone walking this trail could enjoy handmade harmony. Or they taught meditation methods to other students. The task was always hard but accomplishable. One needed to collect all strengths of the soul and to be burning with love for making every such a step toward light. Not every student of mine cognized the Primordial One, but everyone advanced on this great path. As one digs a well, I dug dense layers of souls, exposing their common source, so that my students could satisfy their thirst for cognition. As one opens a window to let in the light, so I opened souls to the eternal light. And then this light, through the opened hearts of my students, flowed outside to every being. And every soul that achieved the summit continued service from the abode of the Primordial One. The end of the human path became for such a soul the great beginning of new divine beingness. Thus I grew souls, collecting wisdom of ages and sowing knowledge, so that the Primordial One may collect the fruits of wisdom. I gave love and sowed its seeds, so that the flowers of love with their fragrance may please everyone, so that its fruits may produce seeds and produce new shoots. I gave power to all who grew properly. I merged with the primordial consciousness so deeply that my physical form became similar to a protrusion of its abode into the material world. My body merged with the primordial one so deeply that he could easily reproduce this corporeal appearance on the material plane in any corner, wherever he needed. I became united with the ocean of the Primordial One. His will manifested through my body. His words came from my mouth. His eyes looked from my body. His wisdom became my wisdom. His calm became my calm. His love became my love. His care became my care. Man's flesh has to be free from the lower self, so that he may enter it. This is realized through the great mystery of mergence. When an individuality which have achieved perfection dissolves in the Primordial One and remains in him, then the body does not belong to samsara anymore. The eyes which look in the depths of the primordial ocean allow the Primordial One to look through the eyes of the body. The arms of the consciousness, which gained the ability to act from the Primordial One, allow the arms of the body to be filled with the power of the Most High. And then your boundless heart becomes connected forever with the united heart of all of us. All this opens an entrance through which other consciousnesses can infuse into the primordial ocean and become it. Buddhists call this nirvana, the state of Buddha, liberation. We asked, Lin, please tell few words for beginners. He answered, let the quietness of morning calm and freshness fill every heart. Also, I want to tell about working with the arms of the consciousness. I, as you did, always paid special attention to working with the arms of the consciousness in teaching students. What an armless person can do on the earth? Not much. It is the same with living in subtle worlds. to live there, to help, to work, to love, one necessarily needs developed arms of the consciousness. The arms of the physical body grow from the chest, where the Anahata chakra is located. It is the chest of the soul. In this chest, in the beginning, the spiritual heart resides. With its aspiration to giving, the heart breaks free from this chest. And since that moment, the proper growth of the consciousness begins. Gradually, such a soul becomes a large and free spiritual heart. Its organs for performing actions, as it is with the material body, are the arms of the consciousness. These arms are essential to it. They too consist of love. The ability to act with the arms of the consciousness determines one's ability to move through the strata of the multidimensional universe. Later, it determines also the firmness of mergence with me and staying in me. Armless idlers cannot stay in my universal depths. They cannot dissolve themselves in me. They just pop up to the surface like corks. God is the greatest worker in the universe. He works without cease. This constitutes his life. Through this in particular, his evolution goes on. And meditation implies feeling his presence constantly. Meditation is a means of entering him. Meditation is a means of merging with him. When a soul can touch him, know him, dissolve itself in him, the state of the true beingness is a disappearance of everything but him. It is the state of his life, his love, his evolution. Author and director of the film Vladimir Antonov. Translated from Russian by Mikhail Nikolenko.